cArn, a former professional 1.6 player that is clearly passionate not only for CS but for esports as a whole, stopped his competitive career to work behind the scenes as the Chief Gaming Officer for Fnatic. His experience and dedication continue to benefit Fnatic and the rest of the esports world. Hey cArn, thanks for sitting down to talk with me today. How's it going? You've been enjoying London, spending all the time with the Brits?
Hey Dan, yeah, I got back to London the other week actually. I went to DreamHack CSGO Invitational in Stockholm. Say something about London. Yeah, I lived here for 4 years now, so I'm getting quite used to the Brits, and it's all good, you know. London is a world capital, pretty much. We have all kinds of people over here, a lot of nice food, expensive rent, bad internet, but yeah. It's here where the Fnatic headquarters is, so I spend the most of my time here, of course.
So, of course, many people know you as a highly accomplished 1.6 player. How did you take the decision to leave professional play and move towards management with Fnatic?
It was something that didn't really happen overnight. I came to a point in my career and life at age 24, 25, where I kind of started to see the end of my career. And also the end of a successful venture within gaming as a pro player. I mean, we were quite consistent, I would say, throughout my time in Fnatic 2006 until 2012. But when the years went by and age went up, and I lost, and also worth to mention here, I lost a few of my dearest colleagues and teammates, as in DSN, INS, Archie. These guys stopped playing way earlier than I did, and so I kind of lost the core of Fnatic was eventually lost, which was good in one way though, because then I established myself as a defined leader, I would say, as well. I was able to bring up some young prominent talent in Sweden, including Exist, and a bunch of other players, of course. So that was actually quite useful for me and a great experience. But in the end of the day, the social aspect of the game, and where I felt I was in life after playing Counter-Strike competitively for like 6 years and playing the game for 13 years in total, I kind of had enough of it. It's not like I'm not going to play the game again. I am playing the game every now and then, but traveling 100+ days every year, it's quite a busy lifestyle, and you have to sacrifice a few things, including your, conventional career. And that's kind of the next thing, At that point in pro gaming, it was very uncertain where you would end up after your player career. I think this kind of environment has changed kind of drastically recently. I mean, a lot of players can earn significant money, and they are also subject to some great endorsement deals, etc. And that wasn't really the case when I was a bit younger and in CS 1.6 specifically. So a lot of has happened to esports the past years. So I'm kind of excited still to be around esports, because us, FPS players, competitive players from early 2000, we have to be seen as some kind of pioneers. And it's also great and inspirational to be a part of this and also help younger players grow. If I regret the decision to play, not really, but every now and then, of course, I feel like it would be great to come back and play, especially when you're standing behind your team and you see them losing and they do some silly mistakes, some strategical decisions I wouldn't have taken. But then again, there are perks as well. I have evenings off. I can, have a holiday during the weekends every now and then. Play casually is quite fun still. And overall, it's just a great experience. It's a great timing as well to be in esports at this point. I think it's a booming industry. Riot, Valve, with CSGO, with Dota, a lot of things are going on. And I think this is just the start, basically. So I'm intending to be around in this business and Fnatic for many years ahead. I guess that was kind of my life story, but long story short, yes, I mean, it made sense for me to quit at that point. And the transition was quite easy, I would say. I had a 2 years period of time where I kind of served as a player and a manager at the same time. I got into my role as CGO probably 2010, and at that point I was still a player. So I was like working daytime for Fnatic in the headquarters in London, and in the evenings I did play. But eventually, that was kind of detrimental for my skills in the game because I was too busy. It's not human to work like 16, 17 hours a day, and then you're supposed to, compete and play on the highest level. So yeah, it made sense overall, and the timing was quite good because CS:GO got introduced at that point when I quit as well, late 2012. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, actually, right at the start of your answer, you were talking about how the fact that you kind of lost one of maybe what felt like the best lineup that you competed with, and that really contributed massively to your decision. And that is actually a really huge deal in CS in general. It seems like no one has really necessarily figured it out, or it's always a struggle building a lineup. Do you have any insights into that topic of building a lineup in CS:GO?
Well, first of all, you kind of need to share the same ambition in terms of what goals your team and you as individuals have. I mean, I had played with so many teammates back in the days that they were like really skilled players. You saw some of the best raw skill in these players you have ever seen, basically, but they weren't really interested in a life on the road and everything that comes with being a professional salaried player. So you need to find like players that are willing to sacrifice and dedicate the most of your life into this. When you have identified that, then you have to start building up a team atmosphere. You need to create a group, a team spirit that takes you through both the good and the bad days. Because eventually, things goes wrong. You lose matches, you lose tournaments, consecutive tournaments. And I think it's there and then where you really can define and tell who are the most consistent teams and balanced teams to like hit back from a slump. But also like lately I've been thinking quite a bit of this, and I discussed this with Thorin over at the Meltdown event we did just this weekend actually. I think until now, the history of Counter-Strike, compare CS to mobile games, Dota, League of Legends, for example. We don't really have like like established roles within CS or FPS for that sake. Surely we have an in-game leader, we have a sniper, and we have somewhat what we call star player. But I actually think we should break it down even further to maybe have have a set initiator, have a backup player, for example, to actually put standards down there, which going to make it easier for future in-game leaders to kind of analyze their team. Who's going to be the initiator? Who's going to be the backup player? Who is the sniper in-game leader? Then you can like easily see what your team is missing, because that's how you do it in other games and also other sports, of course. In CS until this point, sometimes you have like brought in the sports world, in football, for example, a goalkeeper. Put him as an attacker. I think we have a great example of that in SK 2011. I think when they brought in Trace, they had too many star players essentially. So yeah, there are a lot of like data, a lot of statistics out there, including HLTV.org and FACEIT. And I think future in-game leaders should definitely use these tools to kind of determine who should have what role and what makes sense with the current manpower you're having. But yeah, I can sit and speak about this for hours, and I'm not really sure myself. It always changes as well. The metagame is always changing, but interesting times, I guess.
Yeah, it really is a truly interesting topic, and you're always standing behind your CS:GO team at live events, and clearly with your background being an ex-professional player at the highest level, you have invaluable insight there. So how do you approach helping your team at live events when you're standing behind them? Are you really hands-on, or how do you deal with it?
It kind of depends what kind of tournament environment you're having. At DreamHack, for example, you had a stage setup where the grand final was played, and then I was more or less, in order if I wanted to be a part and included in the strategical game, and also boosting their mentality and telling them pretty much everything is going to be all right, using other words and using Swedish, of course. It kind of depends. I mean, if you're standing behind them in the regular tournament area, it's kind of enough to just pet their backs and every now and then knock on the in-game leader's shoulders and tell him like what I think makes sense. And of course, utilizing the pre-game, the mid-game moments between the team switch to kind of give some insights. But besides that, I haven't really digged into the strategical game of Counter-Strike Go, as in, watching demos and trying to be up to par how teams and players are, moving and executing rounds. I'm talking about competitors to us at this point. I give a lot of freedom to Pronax, and he obviously deserves it. He has done a phenomenal job in Fnatic, and he has more or less been the missing piece we have so long been looking for, which kind of like ties in with the previous discussion we had about, identifying the roles. We had Modi, we had Flasha, we had Devilwalk at some point being in-game leader for Fnatic, but now we have a very, defined in-game leader in Pronax, a very experienced player, and also has a style of leadership that makes a lot of sense in the current Counter-Strike. But where I really think I come into place with my experience is I consider myself kind of cool, not in a stylish way or anything like that. But when it comes to, taking the guys to the side sometime and giving them some small word of advice, boosting their mentality, and trying to make them forget whatever mistake they did in the round before. You kind of have to have this kind of Roger Federer mentality. Whenever a ball rally is over, you need to just forget about that and continue into the next round. And that was something we did really, really well over at the DreamHack final. That is one good showcase, and I guess people get really tired of it. But that was more or less our breakthrough, I would say. Now the big job starts, and that is to become consistent. We haven't really been that in this year. We have placed top 3 over at CSGO Invitational. We lost to NIP here at the Meltdown Meltdown Counter-Strike Forever event. But we have a young lineup. We have players that are dedicating so many hours, and just by looking at them, they have a lot of fun together. But yeah, it's a lot of great teams out there, and the ambition for this year is to be top 3 and also win a few more majors.
Right, and speaking of that, do you think that your team is living up to expectation? Of course, they won the biggest event. We have, let's say, the kind of equivalent of that coming up in IEM Katowice. So do you feel like so far they're living up to expectations? Do you think they're underperforming a bit, or how is it feeling for you?
So we signed this team late summer 2013. And they've been with us 6-7 months. What is it now? It's actually a bit more. Time flies. Since late summer 2013. They have won DreamHack. They have had a few top 3 placements at DreamHack CSGO Invitation I just mentioned, but also second place at MSI Beat It. So if you exclude the tournaments where we haven't had Pronax leadership, that would be MSI Beat It, DreamHack, CSGO Invitational, essentially 3 LAN events, and we have placed top 3 in all of them. If that is, matching our standards, I would say it is. But I also know that the road is quite long, and getting consistent, that's going to be the key thing. But so far, so good.
So what did you actually think of the Meltdown esports bar as a venue? And I think it was also quite a unique experience with the commentary. I think we had like a vocal minority kind of crying out about it, but in reality it was just 2 guys basically almost like at a pub just talking about the game, and I think that was pretty enjoyable. But what do you think about that for future events? Has there been talk of that?
I definitely think we're going to do more Meltdown events if that is in CSGO. Most likely, but we're going to try to rotate that. We did League of Legends a few months back. We also done StarCraft 2. But I think overall, the London crowd were quite appreciative, like when it came to CSGO. Quite a few people actually showed up there and followed the event. And I think the Meltdown bar owners, they were really happy about the crowd. Compare this weekend we had a pure esport event to any other weekend, it was way more people. To speak a bit about the commentary and all that, obviously neither Thorin or we are by no means any play-by-play casters. I would say Thorin is an excellent color caster, potentially even the best in the world. I'm quite horrible. I would do a phenomenal job in Swedish, I'm sure about that. But the ambition wasn't to, compete with you guys over there in Milan, or, showing DreamHack or ESL or anyone else how it should be done. Nothing like that. So obviously it was two so-called experts sitting and talking a lot of Counter-Strike in a kind of busy bar environment. So people had to kind of take it for what it is, really. It wasn't, I mean, the reference I was about to say, it wasn't CPL, right? It wasn't the biggest event on the planet. So it wasn't DreamHack, it wasn't EMS. It was a bar event. The players had a cool time there, and I hope that NIP and Astana Dragons that participated remotely also had a great time. And some of the fans as well, I hope you guys appreciated it. We're going to try to do more. We're going to try to listen to the feedback, and we're going to try to get a defined play-by-play caster. Because in my opinion, great casting has to include one expert, if that's a former professional player or someone that knows a lot about the game, like people like Foreign, and a play-by-play caster, native English. He can entertain people for hours, continue come up with cool insights, and also relay questions over to the expert caster. Again, neither Florian or I were suitable for that job, but we had a great time.
And are you actually gonna ever commentate in a Spaceship again?
You're referring to MSI Beat It.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with MSI Beat It in 2014, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to try to replicate that Spaceship green screen-ish streaming setup we had. And I did use the word we, but it was basically the Chinese event organizer in China. It wasn't even MSI. I'm not blaming anyone, but obviously it didn't look as cool as someone thought initially how it could look, Another great experience, though. It was a great event for the players, not so much for the fans back in Europe and America, because believe me or not, it's not easiest to set up an event in Beijing and also running it on a Twitch stream. But we did our best, and a lot of lessons to be learned from that. And hopefully MSI Beat It comes back, and hopefully it comes back with CS:GO, because it's a trending title to support when it comes to being an esport organizer that, we are every now and then together with MSI. Definitely.
And actually, we're coming to the end of the interview now. I don't want to keep you for too long, but I would love to hear what your anticipation is for IEM Katowice. Let's say the prospects of your team, and their hardest competition, and also generally who you think is going to do very well there.
Well, when it comes to the favorites, I would only include NIP and Titan. When it comes to that, they are very likely to end. Both teams are likely to end up in the final, and one of them are obviously very likely to win as well. When it comes to teams like Fnatic, Astana, Copenhagen Wolves, now Dignitas, I would say that our teams, we should not be happy for top 3, but that should be our ambition. And if we reach top 3, we can repeat history similar to what we did in at DreamHack. My overall expectations when it comes to ESL, EMS, and the Katowice venue, they're actually quite high. This isn't an event which, popped up out of the blue. We're talking about ESL here. They have executed tournaments for over a decade now. They are funded by Valve, and I think they have also learned a lot from watching what DreamHack did. So they should and must be better than what DreamHack did. That's going to be hard, because I really think DreamHack did a great job over in Jönköping in November and December to set up that event as the first kind of showcase how great CS:GO production can be made. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do in terms of the casting. I believe Lurpis won't be there. I believe Anders won't be there. Both these cases are quite sad that they cannot be there, or for whatever reason, because I think they should be. Both of them have contributed a lot to CS, both in Lurpis case 1.6 through his work as a player, commentator, and also a writer at hltv.org. And Anders has been the to-go caster or go-to caster for CS:GO ever since its inception, pretty much. So that's a bit sad, and I'm not really sure who they're going to use for that. But I hope they're going to surprise us, because if they're sticking to only the ESL TV staff, I don't think they can beat DreamHack when it comes to, the casting lineup. But production-wise, people showing up in the venue, tournament admins, tournament computers. So I can only have the highest expectations for that. And it's sad for Counter-Strike if they're not able to pull off a really great show there, which I think they will.
Well, do you have any final thoughts before we close it out?
Well, nothing really. Just thank you, Dan, for the interview, and also a very delayed thank you to you and FACEIT for hosting me in Milan over in whenever it was. Was it like
ages ago.
October last year? But yeah, keep up the great job over there with FACEIT. Your support for League of Legends, Quake, and CS:GO has been great for the community. You're really you're targeting the grassroots, but you also make the professional circuit very comprehensive and accessible for the fans, and that's what we need. We need a connection between the two. We need a portal, a gateway where you can go you can come from as an amateur and climb the ladder basically into the very top. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, and I look forward to see you guys around.
Well, thanks very much, Patrik.
Take care.